T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Shout out to US ARC and all US ARC members. If you don't know what US ARC is, don't be ashamed. Just go ahead and click the third link in the description below. See what US ARC is all about, okay? You never know when legislations are going to hit your backyard, so that's why it's very important to consider becoming a US ARC member today. These numbers really do matter, and they look at it for consideration when it comes to battling legislation. So first and foremost, thank you, Phil Goss. Thank you to anybody out there who partners up and volunteers with US ARC organization. Thank you for anyone out there who's a US ARC member. And if you can't become a US ARC member today, please talk about it on your platforms. Let your neighbors know, let all your pet stores know what US ARC is here for, and it's here to fight for our animal rights. Thank you to every US ARC member and US ARC supporter out there. True.
All right, good evening, everybody. You're now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast network in the world, the Trap Talk Reptile Network. This is Krista with the Girls Who Love Reptiles podcast on Sunday nights. We're on episode 49. And then we have Heather from Fairy Tale Dragons LLC. So really excited to talk to her tonight, get her experience, what she's learned throughout her experience with the reptiles, and it'll be a great conversation for nothing but good things. And MJ's been really excited for me to have her on for a little bit now, so it'll be a really good conversation. So share the screen or the screen or the link with your friends. And if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you are tapped in. We are 7 days a week, bringing to you live from people with all sorts of backgrounds, experiences, and species. Leave a comment down below. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and reach out to me. Whoops, there we go. Take off the screen. And yeah, hope you guys are doing well tonight. Hope you can hear me okay. This should be the last Sunday of me doing it in my kitchen area. I finally got my moving truck last week with all my stuff, so I'm just kind of finishing setting up the room today. So really excited to be able to use my mic for next week. So other than that, everything's been pretty smooth. The snakes are doing well. Everybody's still adjusting. I'll be going to Daytona. The plans go to that next weekend. So if you're planning on going, put that in the chat so we can hang out or talk and get to know you a little bit better. So really excited for that. I went last August, and just had a blast. It was a great experience. So really excited for that next weekend. So with that, we will do some of the sponsors, and then we'll bring Heather on and we'll go ahead and get started. So, of course, we have ReptiCo, the official sponsor of the Girls Who Love Reptiles podcast. We have Channing. She is the daughter of Dawn and Billy Rice from Rice Reptiles. She started her own company selling high-end crested geckos and hognoses. So if you are not following, go ahead and follow Official ReptiCo on Instagram. And then also find them on Morph Market. And then the family, Rice Reptiles, also has a YouTube channel. They've been doing great on posting weekly videos, so go ahead and give them a follow as well. And then with that, we'll also go with RGI for all of your shed testing needs. So if you're collecting sheds, go ahead and hit up RGI to get those sent over and read. Really helps accelerate your breeding program. And so highly recommend using RGI. And then we have Clutch. So like I said, I've been saying for the past few weeks I was going to get back on Clutch. So I finally uploaded all my animals in the system. And now the next step is just to make IDs for everybody, but really like the easy interface. really modern. I like how they have the phylogeny trees and everything, family history and everything they got. And as we know, with Justin, always does it at a high level, and they'll keep coming out with new additions to make things better and run smoother. So I'm really excited to start using Clutch. And then with that, we'll kind of end it with Bob. You know, I heard nothing but good things about the Southeast Reptile Expo that happened this weekend. So really excited for him. He's doing great. Heard there were lines out the door, you know, 2 hours before it even opened. So really excited to hear how that went. I will be plans to vend Southeast Reptile Expo in February, so I will start doing that show continuously after I moved and getting the animals all settled in. So really excited to do this show on a regular basis starting in February of next year. And then with that, I'll bring on Heather and we will get started. All right. Hey, Heather, how's it going?
Hey, good.
Perfect. How's your weekend going?
Busy, just like everybody else's. Got Daytona next weekend. Back to school is tomorrow. Height of breeding, height of baby season for both bearded dragons and the blue tongue. So, it's hot. Yeah, there's not a lack of things to do here for me right now. So,
Awesome. So where are you at originally?
what's that?
Where are you located at?
I'm in Central Florida. I'm in Orlando, just outside of Orlando. That's why I was asking about you moving to Florida. So I know exactly where you're at.
You know exactly where I'm at. I wondered you were like,
Yeah.
oh,
I'm just like a few minutes from Orlando International Airport. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. I'll have to see how long. Probably you're maybe 4 or 5 hours from me.
You're about 3 hours from me.
Okay, that's not too bad because I think Daytona was like 4.5.
Yeah, a little over 4 for you. Yeah.
When I was looking. Okay, cool. So I'll
Yeah.
see you next weekend. Yeah, I'm really excited for that show.
Yeah.
How long have you
Yeah,
been?
I actually wanted to do Bob Vu's show this last weekend too, but this year's been a little over the top for us. So I lost my sister to pancreatic cancer, and my mom has late stage dementia. I don't know. There's just all these things, and so I felt that would be too much to do the one show and then make the turn and immediately do the one after. So this year I decided no, that's probably best not to, and I'll do Daytona, and then hope to jump in on his shows next year. So. Yeah.
That makes it really, really tough to do anything outside, focusing on family. And really excited to hear that. I mean, I've known for a little bit, but I've been, thinking about you and praying about you and all that stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's the animals have helped actually. So they, the animals are great for that. Yeah. They help a lot. I have a job I love, so that's very beneficial. So it's, that's important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you do is the reptiles full time or do you?
I do the reptiles full time. So initially I started in reptiles a little over 20 years ago, and I actually worked in luxury jewelry. So I was a manager, and I sold, Cartier, Rolex, Van Cleef, like all the things. And then for several years I did both. And then I decided to, I had my daughter, decided to do, I went into special events, catering events, supervising catering events. So it's set up at different venues. And so I did some big events with like Nike and some others. It was fun. And then I went full-time with the reptiles only in 2017. So I did, part-time for a very long time. But it's really nice to go full-time. It gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility. I'm able to, be there for all of my daughter's events. I'm not missing anything like I did with my son. So, I'm able to be there with her Girl Scout events, go on field trips, all of the things. So that's worked out really well. When my sister was, towards the end, I was able to be there for her every day. And so I was able to, make that work. Whereas if I had a job where I was punching a clock, they would not allow me to, they wouldn't have given me the flexibility that I needed to be, at the hospital or caring for her at home or whatever for the last 2 months. So, so being self-employed gives you a tremendous amount of freedom. It can also be kind of scary because you're not drawing that, check every week or every 2 weeks. So, so it definitely has its moments where you're like, but overall, I mean, I love the freedom that it provides. I love the flexibility that it provides. So, and I enjoy working with the animals. So I would hate it if I ever had to go back punching a clock again.
Yeah,
So,
that's last week is when I started my new job.
mhm.
And yeah, a little bit of a, I want to say sticker shock, but that I realize I've lost that flexibility now.
Right,
That
right, right.
like I'm like, FedEx or shipping was like 10 minutes away, and
Mhm.
now UPS is an hour from my job, or FedEx is way up north in Punta Gorda, I think,
Point of
and it's
Gorda. Uh-huh.
almost like an hour and a half. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
man, this is gonna be, I'm gonna have to
I
leave at like 4 o'clock to make it to pick up, or if I don't know. I'm worried about how I'm gonna do
I
that.
think FedEx closed a center down there recently because I shipped to a customer down there last week and there wasn't a FedEx center near here at all. And there used to be. So I'm like, oh, I think it was one of those that was, because they merged their ground services and their priority overnight centers. So I think that is a center that was closed because that wasn't an option this time. So
Yeah, I think a lot are closing. Like I keep checking. Yeah, the closest one for me is close to an hour and a half. UPS is like 30 minutes from me, so
it's
that's
not too bad.
not too bad. But I think
Mhm.
for whatever reason, Morph Market's having some issues with UPS. So
Yeah, I think everybody's been having some hiccups with UPS. It's not just Morph Market, but yeah, there's definitely been some
yeah.
problems with UPS. I'm still continuing to use FedEx, but I mean, I'm lucky because I'm literally like a few minutes from Orlando International Airport. So I take all of my shipments directly to the airport. So I don't have any truck time or anything like that to calculate. I have a late drop off. I can drop off as late as 8 p.m.
That's
I'm
nice.
taking them directly there, so they're not then being trucked to that center because that's where they fly out of. So that works out really, really well for me. And then I don't really have to take into account my temps when I'm shipping. So, because they're going straight into climate control until they get on the planes, and they're not getting on the planes until like 8 p.m. or later. So,
Okay, that
mhm.
maybe that's a better. I'll maybe look into that because I know who is north of me. I forget who. It's in Fort Myers. They have an airport there. I don't know. Does that have to be
Mhm.
a specific airport?
See if they have, yeah, see if they have, like, I know,
It's like
just check and see what center, if they have a FedEx center there at the airport.
okay.
So Orlando is a major center like Tampa is or Miami. So, mine goes straight from Orlando into Memphis or up to Indianapolis. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Good check. Miami's not too.
sometimes the smaller airports, they'll have a drop off center, but then they're still trucking them over. It just depends. I don't know. I'll have
Yeah,
to just check.
I'll have to check. Miami's not too bad for me, so that could be another option if they're open later. Um, I
I
can
would
do.
think that would be a long run for you.
It's less than 2 hours from me.
Yeah,
Um,
but if you had to do that a couple days a week, and
what I would probably do in my
then to and then from.
well, I probably put in my Morph Market. I ship a couple times a month. I just have
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
ship
that's smart. Yeah. See,
2 days and leave it at
yeah,
that.
yeah. Because of my location, then I have more flexibility. I'm able to I ship Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays.
Okay.
As long as weather's good at at the hubs and at the center that they're being received, then that's fine.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how my hours are, and kind of go from there. But yeah, anyways, it just when you talked about the flexibility, I was like, yeah, I noticed this.
Yeah.
That's not,
I mean, I know both worlds very, very well. So, having done it for what is it? I don't know, 13, 14 years I did both, before I went full time with this. So I understand both sides of it. I also understand, the hobbyist side of it also, with a little bit with a higher production like I have now, which is still on the lower end, but as far as like industry wide, but yeah.
so. At least from the beginning, what originally got you into reptiles, and what was that first reptile for you?
So as a kid, I was catching all the things in the yard. I was tromping through the woods when I was supposed to be staying on the sidewalk in the neighborhood. I was climbing trees and all the things. So I was catching lizards and snakes and this and that. And then I kind of got away from it. I really didn't pursue anything, except for I was going to go into marine biology. That was what I was going to do. And then I met my first husband, and we could only really afford for one of us to be in college at once. We needed, the income of one of us really working full time. I was making more than he was, so he went to school first. And then I ended up in the jewelry industry. So I was, selling jewelry, and then I ended up in management, and I was making so much by the time he got out of school, I was just like, at this point, like, really, what's the point? I was doing really, really well with it. But after, 20 years of that, through the process and coming up on the end of my career in the jewelry industry, I started I was just kind of like, I wasn't getting out of it what I was originally. Like, I was just kind of like, to me, I was like, does anybody need $100,000 watch? Does anybody need a $20,000 necklace? I mean, I still loved it. The pieces that I worked with were beautiful. The clients were very nice. But I just had kind of lost interest in it. And so by that time, I was divorced and remarried. And the second person that I was married to, wasn't exactly a great person. He was a narcissist and couldn't hold down a job. Anyway, he decided to buy and resell using my credit cards while I was at work. And so I would come home, and I got a crash course in jewelry. I had a crash course in reptile keeping, because I would come home and I'd say, how is this set up? How is that set up? Have you dewormed this? Have you dewormed that? And he's like, no, I'm sure it's the same. It's the same. So I was just like pouring over all of the, chat groups and this and that, all over fauna and king snake, like the chat rooms, and trying to determine what proper husbandry was for various species that he was picking up at Strictly Reptiles and, the import exporters down south. So, when I decided it was time to move on from that relationship, then I had already bought bearded dragons from like quality breeders. I thought they were fun. They were cute. And so I was growing those up for my own stock. And when I left, then I took those with me. And then in 2009, I formed Fairy Tale. So I kept that pretty small for, quite a few years. I started out with one pairing, then I jumped to 3, then I stayed at 5 pairings for a while, because 5 pairs of bearded dragons can produce quite a few. And then I just kind of grew from there. So I've kept a number of species on and off over the years. The dragons have always been the ones that was consistent. I always wanted to get into the blue tongues as well. So I entered that in like 2017. And then in 2019, 2020, so 5 years ago, then we got a breeding loan offer for some of the mutations. So I got those in. And then now, I've kind of backed down on the dragons some, although I'll always still keep them, and then ramped up, as if you looked at my Instagram page or anything on my social media presence, then you're going to see kind of an equal presence of both. So that's represented a new challenge. I really, really enjoy them. Their husbandry, actually everything about them is easier in my opinion, for the pet keeper. As far as the husbandry, they live a very long time. They're more cost effective for my customers to feed them. After the first year, they're very inexpensive to keep. And they have a much more varied diet. They're kind of like the trash pandas, so like a raccoon, like the tegu, they'll eat just about anything. So, there's just, there's a lot of things that make them very much, they're perfect for the pets, for the pet sector, for the mainstream pets. They just really haven't taken their place, within the top 5. So, and I think with the rollout of the mutations and working on those over the years, we're going to see that happen, that they'll climb up there with the bearded dragon and the ball python and the crested gecko, and the leopard gecko, they'll climb up to the top.
Mhm.
So I'm already seeing a surge already. The interaction that I have in social media, clients contacting me and saying, I always wanted a bearded dragon, but I see all these. Tell me more about them. Kind of give me some differences. And so I kind of give them, the pluses and minuses of both species so that they can determine what works best for them. So, and I'll, be able to offer both species to the industry and to the industry, as well as a couple other species that I work with on a much smaller scale, like the banana pectinata, which I love too. As well. They're
Those
fun.
are cool. I've always
Yeah,
seen.
they're very cool. They're very fun. They're like a bearded dragon. They're very friendly. They do require. They have a little bit more of a housing requirement as far as they need a bit more space. So that can be inhibiting for some people. So
Pretty cool.
yeah.
So kind of go over, I think I find it interesting, kind of the differences between the dragons and the skinks, and why one may be better for somebody versus the other.
Yeah, so when I have somebody approach me about like what are some of the differences in them, the initial setup, as far as the initial investment setup for a pet keeper or for a breeder, is about the same. So they do both require UV. They both require something like a 4x2x2 that of course you can later upgrade if you so choose to do so. 6x2x2, whatever fits. Whatever a client is able to provide for them or a customer. So they have a similar initial setup cost. After that, it's more about, how much are you home? Do you travel a lot? Are you a family with kids? Are you constantly on the road? Some of my families, they're home all the time or they're home quite a bit. So a bearded dragon is more, suitable. Some of them are on the road because their kids are in Little League or they're in the Scouts or, they're constantly taking weekend trips and things like that. So, if somebody's going to be gone a good bit, and when I say I don't mean gone all the time, but they have a tendency to have a lot of activities through the weekend and so on and so forth. Short weekend trips, then the blue tongue is better with that than the bearded dragon. They also, diet wise, some of the moms out there don't want to deal with live bugs, so you do have some other options. Although I do feed live to my blue tongues, then you don't necessarily have to. There's other diets out there that you can feed, so they're more versatile. They offer you a little bit more flexibility that way. As far as personality is concerned, the bearded dragon is obviously extremely interactive. The bearded dragon is constantly they watch my every move. They're very interactive. They're very curious. The blue tongues are as well. But I always compare kind of the bearded dragon to the dog and the blue tongue to the cat. And that's what I tell people. And that gives them a really kind of good idea of what they're looking like. The blue tongue sometimes is kind of like, take it or leave it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they want the attention. Sometimes they're like, nah, I'm good. And they'll just kind of check out. So, there's a lot of times when I say that, then it clicks and somebody goes, oh, I gotcha. And they'll be like, I want a cat, or I want a dog. So it just helps to give them the information to determine what's best for them, right? Because it's not about me, it's about them and what's best for them and what they're going to enjoy and what's going to work best in their home with their lifestyle and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm trying to kind of match up. The blue tongue is less expensive to maintain after the first year, as far as it's less expensive to feed.
Okay.
You can feed a blue tongue skink a really good diet as an adult for maybe like $60 a year. So yeah. So they're not. Yeah, the first year they're eating quite a bit more, obviously, but once they hit about a year and their food intake drops off, then yeah, they're very. It's good for people, as far as not necessarily wanting to continuously always having to bring in live bugs, so. If you're a family of 4, you're not having to, go down to the pet store or go to a local pet store or order in a box of crickets or whatever, because that does add up. So that is a plus for the blue tongue. So the plus for the bearded dragon is they are a little bit more personable, if you were to really, as far as checking all the boxes, more like a dog, like I said, and rather than a cat, but not by much. So,
Okay.
So I like the blue tongues because they live a long time. They live a really long time. Um, they they're just whenever I have somebody when I'm assisting somebody with a setup, there's fewer questions. They generally get the hang of it. The husbandry is much easier to nail down. So I mean, they're different experiences. So at the end of the day, people need to decide what's right for them, but
Right.
they really haven't taken their place like they should have. So
Yes.
amongst the top. So
Yeah, I would say, I'm fairly new into this, but yeah, I think I just at show, I mean, I guess I'm from Missouri. I haven't seen a lot of them at shows,
mhm.
maybe down here now I'll see a little bit more, but yeah, they haven't really been on my radar because I haven't just seen them
Yeah.
around very much. So
Yeah, I mean they're pretty personable. They're funny to watch. So and most of them are quite friendly. Excuse me. I keep the northerns. I have easterns, the Marukis, the Ariangayas, and the classic Indos, the Gigas, and the Gigas are the only ones that are sometimes a little bit they're a bit more aggressive. So but and they hide a lot. They're very nervous, so they hide a good bit. But the Marukis, the northerns, the easterns, the Aaron, they all make really, really good pets. Like they make really good pets. So, and I really enjoy working with them. It's nice. They're live bearers too. So from a breeder standpoint, it's nice. They have babies once a year and that's it.
oh wow.
So yeah. So the babies drop and then that's it for the year. So like, working with boa constrictor or something.
How
So
many
that's nice.
how many do they have?
So it depends on the species. So like the IJs, most of the time it seems like kind of the average for me is around 6 in a litter. The northerns I've had as many as 20 in a litter. The Marukis, I just started with them. I acquired Tom Neely, he was so nice. He was a great guy, but he had a patternless project with the Maruki, and so last year he had contacted me. His health was not doing very good, and he had contacted me and asked if I wanted to acquire his collection. So so I took those on. And I was shocked by how much I really enjoyed them. I was like, oh, I'm not too sure about them. I really love them. I love those guys. They're awesome. So anyway, they I've only produced a few litters, so I really can't give you definitive, like numbers. But it seems like around 5 probably, like what I've experienced. That doesn't mean that that's the average. That's just what I've experienced so far. But those animals were coming in and just kind of getting settled down. And when you move adults, I feel like it takes them about a year to get acclimated and kind of settle in before they really start producing. So
Interesting. Huh.
so and then the classic Indo, the Gigas, she gave me 13 this year. So quite a few.
And are the babies easy to establish for the most
Yeah, they
part?
are. They're very easy to establish. Yep. So, and the baby size differs depending upon the species. Seem like obviously the ones that have lower numbers, the babies have a tendency to be much larger. So the IJs are very big when they're born. Like they're big. They're larger than the northerns, although some of my easterns were really big this year too. But yeah.
Cool.
But
Yeah.
they're easy to establish. They're not difficult to keep initially, right when they're born. I mean, they'll go. I have a video on Instagram that I posted where the baby was born, basically turned around and consumed the rest of its sack because that's like its first official meal. And then I walked by 5 minutes later and I just so happened was going to feed her. That's why I was able to see it, to catch it on videos, because she was giving birth at that time. And so I came back and he had his head planted in her food dish. And it was like right away. So yeah. I mean, because they gotta, I guess they just, they come out and they're ready to eat. So it was great.
Take a look at
It
that.
was so funny. What's
Yeah.
that?
Oh, I can pull up your Instagram towards the
Yeah.
end. I sometimes like to have the guests kind of show us pictures of the morphs, just so they
Yeah.
kind of visually stick. So yeah, we'll do that towards the end of the show. And we can
Yeah, I
see.
had taken video of her giving birth, and then I came back by a few minutes later, and the little bugger was in her food dish. I was like, "What?" It was funny. So yeah,
Well, you established because yeah, not every
yeah. So
so
it's nice because I mean, from a breeder standpoint, it's nice because they have babies once a year, and then that's it. Where my bearded dragons, now I'm at the end because it's been so hot this year. My season is winding down now, but every 2 to 4 weeks, you're you're digging up another clutch of eggs, so they can produce quite a few babies. So if you have an equal number of breeders of blue tongues to bearded dragons, you're going to end up with far more offspring from the bearded dragons, obviously, than you will the blue tongues. So the cost of production is higher on the bearded dragons, but you're producing more numbers. So the blue tongues, the cost of production is lower, but you're not producing as many. So
yeah, that makes quite a bit of sense. With the bearded dragon side, what morphs do you kind of focus on with those guys?
So I pretty much work with all of them. I have, the Dunner, the leather, the hypo, whiplets, zeros, so
Okay, so a little bit of everything.
yeah,
I'm not too familiar
all
with
the colors.
all the
So
colors.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I do also have, which I don't talk about very frequently, I do have the albino project that's on loan to me right now. So I do have eggs in incubation to start that. Those weren't be available though. Those I'm holding back because I'm outcrossing them.
Okay.
So that's just in the beginning phases. I had some babies come in on breeder loan to me, so I've got those grown up now and have them in production now. So, like I said, I have eggs now, but I won't be selling those to the public for some time. Starting slow without outcrossing and going from there. So
Okay, because it's I'm assuming relatively new, and so it's more
it is.
inbred. So you're kind of out crossing it and then breeding them kind of.
Yeah, the ones that the ones that I had come into me, I wasn't thrilled about as far as the structure and everything else. So I had heads come in and I had visuals come in, and I outcrossed those in 2 different directions. So yeah, so I got the first eggs from that project. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, as far as breeder loans, is that something you've done before and not felt comfortable with this? Like, kind of walk us through your thought
I
process.
don't historically, no, I don't like doing breeder loans because most of the time, as an industry, all you breeders out there, they don't usually work out very well.
Yeah.
So for a really long time, I had an absolutely not rule on that. I would not take in anybody's animals. I wouldn't loan anything out, because that's where some of the biggest horror stories in the industry come from, but the albinos are on the albino bearded dragon project that was on loan to me from somebody that I've known in the industry and Ron has also known for many years. So I felt fine with that because we have a well-established relationship. And then the blue tongue project, then we basically stated it was fine. It was worked out fine. We kind of established the rules and how it's going to work and so on initially. And he had done breeding loans to others in the industry before too. It didn't work out for him, but it worked out for others. It worked out for the recipients of them, unfortunately. But I'm very fair about that kind of thing, and I keep really good track. I keep really tight records. Like I have 16 pages of, detailed notes on all, every blue tongue that I have on property as far as breeders. So, what's mine, what's theirs, what's shared, all of that.
Yeah.
I'm very detailed with that, where they're located on property, all that stuff.
That's
So,
something I want to get better at is a little bit of paper, but also having it on a computer. But I think it's good to have it in either more
I have it on,
computer.
yeah, I have it on my phone. I also have it on my laptop. And every time I make a floor move, every time I move an animal, whether it's a baby or an adult, then I make the change and then I print up a copy. So it's about every day that I'm, running an updated copy of it.
Okay. Okay.
So, but then I know who bred, how many babies they had, who were they fairy tale dragon only? Were they shared with, with the breeding loan project, all of that stuff. And I have complete details. And then I have very detailed notes on all of my enclosures as well. So you have to stay organized if you do that.
Yeah, that's one thing. As
Mhm. I mean, you have to anyway with those projects when there's, morphs involved. Like this year, I produced a lot of hets
Okay.
that I'm hanging on to. So, I mean, you have to know what's where. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. With those, either of those two species, do people who your customers, do they care a lot about the lineage part, or is it mainly if they have the gene or not? Like, do they ask for parent pics and all of that?
So the bearded dragon, there's really not much to the lineage thing. That's not really a thing.
Okay.
There, there is to some extent in the blue tongues, but I find that it's gotten really, I don't mean this as an insult to anybody that has been in blue tongues for a long time, but it, to me, coming in, as a later player, coming in like 2017, then I feel like it got really muddied. It's kind of like everybody had their name for their red. And so it's like, you buy a blue tongue from somebody and you get 20 names crossed to 10 names, and it's just ultra confusing and very muddied. So to me, in the dragon industry, in the dragons, there used to be quite a bit of that too, and it was getting really carried away. And I just personally, I don't participate in that. I'm like, it's a red, it's an orange, it's this, I acquired it from, or I produced it myself. Like I give those details, but I feel like it just, some of these lists, I'm just like, oh my goodness. It's like, I
Yeah,
don't know. It's a little extra. I mean, I want to provide, I think lineage is important to a certain extent, but
right.
It's a starburst, bubblegum, zippy, blah 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 blah, magma. It's just like, what?
Yeah,
It's red, it's an orange.
it probably happens just from like that's more of a thing in other species. So when people cross into other species, they just take, oh, it must apply to this or that.
Yeah,
It doesn't always apply to
I
that.
mean, I think a lot of it has to do with, everybody kind of wanted, which when they do great things, like if you create a red line that's spectacular, right? Then people want to know about that red line.
Mhm.
So that red line is whatever. I'm just going to say cherry to not bring up anybody specific, but you've got the cherry line, right? So, and you want them to be recognized for that. But at the same time, like when you're talking like 10 years down the road, when you're, 6, 7 generations in, it gets really messy, to add cherry with all the, I don't know. It just gets a little much in my opinion, but that's just me.
Yeah. You see that kind of, at least the ball python world, popping up too, with like different lines of everything. And now with the shed testing, it seems like it's just augmenting it. Like there's different, like it's not adding up, like they're not shed testing the same. I would say probably, what's the big one? There's been a lot of, I think black pastel, they've been just finding like multiple different like lines that aren't testing the same. So it creates like a really lot of
Right.
confusion.
Yeah. And, and pet people, I mean, obviously I'm selling to industry people and pet people, but pet people don't care.
Yeah.
They just want a beautiful pet. They
Mhm.
want, they want to know that it's a beautiful wed, that it was produced responsibly, or a beautiful yellow or whatever. And they want to know what day it was born or hatched. And that's it. They don't want a paragraph of, its history. They just don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That makes it easier.
Are you
Because,
being ethical? Are you outcrossing? Are you, and then, yeah.
with you, been in the industry for so long, what kind of maybe trends that you've kind of seen over the years in both of these species, whether it be from, you know, more people being interested in one another, like you kind of hinted on with the skinks, but I'm always curious just to see how your impression of the industry as a whole and with the species you've worked with has changed a little bit.
Well, right now with the bearded dragon, so any species is driven by morphs, whether we like it or not. I mean, aside from the hardcores that love, you know, locale specifics and so on and so forth. But as far as like the pet industry, which is what drives this whole thing for the most part, you know, what it's become is because of the pet industry. So, what drives that generally is color and morphs, and the morphs are the main driver. So, any species that has a mutation and then they don't pop out a new mutation for say 5, 10, 15 years, then that species has a tendency to kind of like cycle into a little bit of a downward trend because there is a loss of excitement for that species. It's like, for example, the zero for the bearded dragon that ignited the excitement for the bearded dragon. And so the popularity soared again, right?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really had a new mutation in quite some time, like a real mutation, other than the albino, but that's a tricky one. And that's not something that's widely available right now. And that one's going to take a little bit of work. So we're seeing a little bit of a downward trend right now for the bearded dragon. So, whereas the blue tongue in the United States, we really didn't get the morphs weren't on the ground. The morphs weren't where they were here, but they weren't in production. So now that the morphs are in production, then we're starting to see an upward tick with them. So, and the more morphs that we see, the more that'll drive that market.
I see.
So that'll drive the excitement. That'll drive because people are going to be drawn to all of the different colors. They're going to be drawn to the different patterns that are created and all of the things. So then you have variety, just like with the ball python market. You know, you originally, as that grew, I mean, it turned into, you know, it's huge. It's huge. But that was all morph driven. So largely morph driven.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, when you're able to incorporate color into that as well, then that is even, you know, that further drives it. So, for example, like the reds, for example, and the bearded dragon, the reds are always going to be the number one seller. But the reds, because right now everybody was chasing the red monster, so the market was flooded with red monsters. So right now we're seeing a trend where everybody's asking for yellow because they're looking for something different, because everything being offered is red. So if you have yellow, you're going to sell out of your yellows. You know, it's easier to sell a yellow right now, or a high yellow anyway. So yeah, it's interesting to watch the trends and the cycles, and yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like as new people, we kind of get caught up in trying to chase the cycle, but by the time you grow the animals
It's too late.
yeah,
Sometimes.
It's better to just work with what you love. Other people, I'm sure, will love it too. I don't know what your mentality is for new.
Yeah, I have to love what I'm working with. I have to believe in what I'm working with, or I can't sell it. I'm not interested, and then I'm not going to sell it either because I can't stand behind it. So, you know, for me, like, I really enjoy the bearded dragon. I always have, even though it's kind of like an entry level starter. It's always just been a fun little quirky, silly, you know, species to work with. They just kind of make you laugh, and they're just silly little things. Anyway, so and I like the videos that I get from, because as a mom, I'm a mom, you know, so as a mom, I love getting all of the stories from, you know, another mom that has contacted me and sent me a video of their child getting a bearded dragon on Christmas morning that they've been saving 2 years for, or, you know, the kid saved up his allowance and done all this research and have actually submitted a paper to me to tell me what they've learned and what they know before they get their dragon, you know. So, and I enjoy that. To me, that is very fulfilling. I feel like I am having an impact. I am having a small impact on that person's lives. That gives me goosebumps, because that's a part of their memory. I mean, that's a part of the family's, you know, story. And so I'm adding to that story. And pets are very important, and pets have always been important, you know, all through history. You know, men have kept pets.
Mhm.
And so, yes, the reptiles are a little different, but they offer something in an age where maybe somebody isn't able to keep a cat or a dog due to allergies. Like I was allergic to both when I was young, so I couldn't have either. So we kept birds. So I would have loved to have kept reptiles, but that wasn't, so my dad was more into birds. But anyway, they're an important part of they are oftentimes an important part of a childhood memory, so I get to be a part of that. And so I I find great fulfillment in that and great joy in that. So, and then I have fun from the industry side too, being able to link in with others that we share something in common and we're able to share stories or, problem solve together or learn and go to the next level. I mean, what is known now, for example, with the bearded dragon versus when I first entered, 21, 22 years ago, is night and day. There's a lot of things that have changed. There's a lot of things that I understand very differently than when I started. My mentor when I started many years ago, I'm on a totally different level now as far as understanding the species. It's, we've evolved as a community. We've evolved in understanding each of these species that we keep, whatever that species is, whether it's a crested gecko or a blue tongue or a bearded dragon or a chondro, whatever it is, we've all learned so much and we're learning together. And so I like that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, no, that was really great. My hair kind of stood up.
Yeah, I get that way too.
The human animal bond it's new, at least in the veterinary community. It's a new that we're looking into as far as research wise.
Yeah.
Back in the history, and I think reptiles are a little bit behind as far as the
they are
with dogs and cats, but it'll come to the forefront of how they kind of impact those species.
We haven't even cracked the surface. And really, like if you look at the books and what's documented, I mean, we haven't even cracked the surface yet with the reptiles at all. They are I believe a lot more intelligent than a lot of times we give them credit for. And I think that they, it's just, I think there's just so much there. There's so much to learn, which I like too, because you really can't, if your eyes are open and you're open to learning and you're open to doing new things and you're open to trying and failing and having to try again, and go back to the drawing board, then there's so much that can be learned. And there's just so much out there. And so I'm very excited for that too. I don't know. I mean, I've had bearded dragons that have loved their owner, but would attack. Like I had a gentleman years ago, he was a kid. It was 18, or I guess he was 18 or 19. He had a dragon and they were buds. And he started dating this girl and that dragon hated that girl.
Wow.
That dragon would go straight after her. It was hilarious. It was the funniest thing. And they didn't stay together, but it was just weird. It was really weird. It's just kind of like, well, why? I've had dragons that were great with me. I'd open the enclosure, they'd come running out, run up directly up on my shoulder. And then if Ron walked by or a friend of ours, Scott, he would run at the glass and try to attack, just like, why?
They know who their person is.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's not, yeah. So anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but just funny little stories.
No, girlfriend's funny. Yeah, Lisa. It's not saying she's a bad person or anything, but
no, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, for him, she wasn't a good fit, but maybe the dragon knew that. I don't know.
They do.
But anyway, no, it's I really enjoy watching their behaviors, and I mean, you can just learn a lot. In general, I think you can pull, and that's another thing too, like keeping pets, keeping reptiles, working with animals, you're learning more about yourself, you're learning more about the world, you're learning more about just how everything is connected. So I don't know. I really enjoy it. And working outside has been a really cool experience too, because I've been able to see behaviors that I didn't see indoors. And so I was able to modify my indoor keeping some as well through watching and observing outdoors.
Can you go into that? Can you go into that a little bit? My behavior just fascinating, but what have you kind of...
Yeah, so like, for example, So I always kept bearded dragons indoors.
Right.
I never kept them outdoors. And Ron, of course, has many years experience. He was one of the pioneers with outdoor keeping.
Mhm.
So when we got together, then we went ahead and built outdoor systems. He built outdoor systems for the dragons. And watching them run, watching them climb, they love to climb. You know, babies, I keep like the enclosures that I keep here for my babies, for example. I used to keep like low level things for them to climb. You know, everybody uses little baskets and this and that, little wire ramps. I had little wire ramps and whatnot. Now it's like full of sticks.
Hmm.
And they each have their own little stick. And at night, they all go up on their own little stick.
Oh, that's cool.
So, you know, as long as they have their own, like dragons are nervous in large groups, but if they have their own little place to go, that removes that, and they're no longer nervous. They have their own space. Their own space is important. So if you're providing them with that, then that cuts down on like nips and things like that. Everybody's like, oh, it's the food, and they're like stuffing them full of food and giving them more crickets. It's not the food, it's nervousness. They're nervous. And so if you give them something that allows them to mimic a natural behavior for them, which for a baby dragon that's just hatched out of the ground, it's to run right up into a bush, you know, or up onto a fence line. It's not to be forced on the ground, because on the ground they're going to get consumed.
Yeah.
Right. So if they're able to climb, then that gives them a sense of security. So when I'm working with my pet homes and I have a dragon going into a new pet home, I always make sure that they're providing something for that dragon to climb above and beyond just a flat platform, a basking platform. Because and they'll do it, and sometimes they don't have one and they're like, he seems really nervous and so on and so forth. I'm like, send me a picture of your setup, let me see your setup. And so they won't have enough height, they won't have enough things, you know, for them to climb. So I'm like, okay, do me a favor, you know, let's do this, let's get yourself a really couple good branches in there, let's see what happens. Oh my God, he's great. He loves it. Right up to the top, he started eating, you know. So it's just like simple little tweaks that you can make that make all the difference in the behavior of the animal. So yeah, so since I do that here, then I have very few nips. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, because it can happen. It does happen, but it's pretty rare.
So it's all about the height, you would say, with the interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also indoor keeping versus outdoor keeping. The way that I did it for years was like the critter condos, you know, that were like 3-2-2, and I'd have a basking ramp and so on. But I had a shorter profile, and I didn't really have like all of the things. And so the difference as far as feeling the animal and the animal's grip and how strong they were, is very different when I had them indoor versus when I got them outdoor, and they had the ability to climb up big branches and on big ramps and had multiple platforms, and you know, they were able to run and things like that. So I'm really glad to see, as an industry as a whole, that we are moving in the direction of larger enclosures with a more naturalistic setup, because we're allowing them to like exercise and exhibit more natural behaviors, to build muscle tone. Something that I think was lacking before for all of us, and we didn't really realize the importance of it. So you kind of had like the couch potato versus the versus the kid that gets outside and is running around in the neighborhood, type of thing. So I noticed big differences, in my own animals when I moved those original animals from being indoors to outdoors, and they had all of the things. They were just much stronger. They were more resilient. All of my adults, they go through full 4 seasons. They go through all the 4 seasons, so they're not like stuck in a stagnant spring, like this constant state of spring. So I learned just how much, how flexible they are. And how that is important for immune system function. So, I mean, they hit 32 here. They hit freezing. My adults do. They are out in, temperatures that are very, very high. So, I mean, obviously I'm providing them with subfloors and places for them to hide and to get out of the elements. They're able to get out of the rain. They're able to get out of the heat, seek shade. They have very, very high, a good amount of ventilation. Ventilation is incredibly important. So So yeah, but they experience all of these, you know, all of the volatility of nature, chaos. And so there I learned how that can benefit the animal to be able to experience all that instead of being the lab rat where they're
Mm.
constantly getting the exact same temperatures, exact same every day with the exact same schedule. That is a detriment to the animal and their offspring. And I think that over a course of, a number of generations, that can lead to, a weakening in that colony as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that as well. I think in our minds, reptiles, they need the heat, they need to keep it stable. Any sort of change can stress them out. But I've been doing a little more research on the chewies because I keep them now, and they don't
Right.
people don't fully brumate them in the wintertime, but they kind of make it cooler.
Right.
Where they do kind of go in a little sub kind of brumation mode, and some breeders have found much more better fertility with them in the following year when they've been doing that.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting. I'm gonna see how I can kind of do that here in the heat in Florida. But yeah.
I think we all need to keep in mind, whether you're breeding indoors or outdoors, that nature is chaos
Yeah.
and it's not sterile.
Mm-hmm.
So, I keep my enclosures clean, but I don't use the quats. I use the sun, I use other methods of cleaning them because that's where the superbugs come from.
Yes.
So obviously if you have something you have to deal with, whatever, but yeah, I mean, I found that my colony has just been much, much stronger, exposing them to not always, even the stuff that I keep indoors, not always having it on a timer where it's like on at 7, off at 9, drop salads at 9 a.m., drop bugs at 10 a.m. I mean, that's not, so I think that helps. I think that's very beneficial.
Yep, and kind of trying to mimic the seasons as best you can inside. For sure, wherever you live is going to bring its own challenges as
Mhm.
well. So whether you're breeding or I guess keeping, maybe trying to find somebody in your area of the country that's successful that can kind of try to help mimic those changes depending on the environment.
Just understanding the animal that you're working with, we now have the ability to mimic a lot of things indoors that we didn't used to be able to do. Just enclosure size is totally different. I mean, even 10 years ago, you would have to spend an incredible amount of money, and you had quite the investment to be able to get a 422. They weren't very easy to come by. They were custom made. Now you can order one, from dubia.com, or I mean, there's quite a few manufacturers of them. They've gotten better, they've gotten quicker, they've gotten more affordable. So there's a lot of options there. When I first started, you were either had, unless you were having a custom system built, then you had a 40-gallon breeder fish tank or a 55, which I hated the 55s because they were so short.
Yeah.
So you were having to get, boa masters or whatever. I mean, you were having to pay to have very large enclosures built, which was out of reach for most, homeowners, most families, most pet keepers can't necessarily drop, $600, $700, $800 on an enclosure.
Mhm.
So, anyway, it's really opened up. I mean, and there's there's a lot of lighting options that we didn't used to have. I mean, we're able to mimic and replicate so much that we weren't able to do even, 5, 6, 8 years ago. Everything's coming a long way. And, as all of us chat about our experiences and we're connected on social media, which sometimes is a blessing, sometimes it's not. Um, it's like, but it's really good though, because I'm able to use my mouthpiece and amplify just how much dragons love to climb, and the importance of that. So that's like catching on. It's just like we're not doing just the basics with the ground floor and the little tile and the this. It's just kind of like everybody's kind of going to the next level and able to apply that information, and then I'm able to pick up something from somebody else from the experience they've had. So, which I think that's really important, and I think is important no matter how long you've been at it, whether it's a year, 5 years, 20 years, 40 years, that you're open to trying new things and listening to other people's experiences.
100%.
So,
And that's where yes, it could be a curse, but social media, if you're able to do it in a way that captivates, if you can get people to believe it, or
Mhm.
see the change, see the in the animal, and that's on you, kind of a little bit as the breeder to capture those moments and get people to think, oh, this is important or this is beneficial.
Right, right. And I'll give you kind of an example of that. So when I started in the industry, Ron was breeding dragons outdoors. He started breeding dragons outdoors in like the 80s. So that's one of the things that he bred early in the years. And so when Facebook came around and everybody was on Facebook, and he was posting photos of his systems, and he was posting photos of his systems in like 2010, 2012, like right around in there, right? And I was a small boutique keeper and had a network of friends that were all doing the same, and we were all doing indoors. And there was just like this chat that lit up. There were several chats actually that lit up about how all of his animals were going to have yellow fungus because he had them outside. And because he had them outside, there was no way he could be successful, and that his animals were no good. So, but that wasn't the case at all. It was just people didn't understand why his system worked. His system worked because he wasn't living in a flood zone. His system worked because he had proper drainage. His system worked because he had proper ventilation. So there's all these reasons, and his system worked because his animals were able to be strong and being able to be exposed to all of the seasons. And they were strong because they had the ability to climb and dig and do all of the things that a bearded dragon does. So when I initially put mine outside in 2019, then there were some, not industry people, but more, some of the people that have rescued one or two animals that are on Facebook, they were coming in to my setup saying that can't be done. That's impossible. They'll all be dead. They'll all get an RI. They'll all get yellow fungus. They didn't understand the system. So now obviously my system has been, in a number of videos. People have obviously seen that I've done it. Most people, though, were accepting of me doing it because they trusted me because I had built a rapport with that part of the industry. So they were like, okay, well, I know she's not going to put her animals at risk. And so now you have a bunch of breeders since that time that are now exploring outdoor keeping, that are keeping them in outdoors, or they're keeping outdoors part of the year. So if they live up north, they're only putting them outside for, 3 months of the year, or they're bringing them out during, the height of, when the weather is right for that species or whatever. But anyway, so you're seeing a lot more of that. But it's just opening your mind and opening your eyes and just being real, and I can't even talk to it.
That's right.
It's like, it's just about understand. It's the system, it's the system and how it's set up. If we had set the system up across the street, which is on a lake, and the property is floods and it doesn't drain well, it wouldn't work. It doesn't matter what gravel I put down or anything else. For a bearded dragon, it would not work. But because my property drains and because there's proper airflow and all of the things, then it works.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, now fast forward from the bearded dragon community basically laughing at his system. Now it's completely accepted, 13 years later, and it's being replicated by a lot of breeders that are keeping outdoors, right? So, but at that time, my sector of the industry, the bearded dragon keeper, thought he was nuts, and they thought that there was no way he could be producing a healthy animal. Anyway, just an example. Little story.
No, it's just, I think it's important to not to have the way you do things be swayed by other people in the community, especially if you believe in your setup, believe in your animals. And it's hard. You have a lot of people talking in your ear, the negative side of social media, of course, that can influence that.
Yeah. And I just, I think all of us need to be more open-minded. We need to be more open-minded about, what others are trying. We need to be more open-minded about what others have learned. We need to be willing to try things. I mean, within the safety limits of the animal, though, and not just be like, "Oh no, I can't do that." There's no way. If it's within the parameters of what that animal would naturally experience in the wild, and you're able to replicate some portion of that, then you should try it.
Mhm.
But anyway, I don't know.
We have one question I'll bring up. Well, here's a comment. So Michael, thanks for tapping in excellent questions. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And then Michael also has another question. Minimum 4x2x2. I'm assuming.
Oh, for a bearded dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And even for a blue tongue as well. Some of the species of blue tongues, like the Marukis, can get quite large. So as an adult, the Marukis, if you can do a 622, is good to go
Okay.
as well.
Yeah, not sure
Yeah.
what exactly species, but yeah, if you guys have
And you
any
can start like a baby dragon. You can start them right in a 422 as well. You don't have to start them in a smaller enclosure. That used to be kind of the norm back when I first started. It was kind of the norm to put them in like a 20 long and then move them up. But that is not necessary at all. Most of my babies go straight into a 422, and they're totally fine with that.
They're fine. Yeah, I
Yep.
see so many. I do some reptile consulting a little bit on the side, on the vet side. And I see still a lot of people just keeping them in 40-gallon tanks, and
Yeah.
it's sad to see them, big adults just.
Mhm. And I mean, that was the industry standard for years. Again, so that was something we didn't have. There really wasn't widespread availability of a 422. There just wasn't. There was a 40-gallon. So you had the choice of, like I said earlier, touched on it, a 40-gallon or a 55. To me, back when I started and back based on availabilities, if I had a choice between those two, I took the 40 because it was a deeper enclosure. So they were able to make the turn and stuff, where the 55, standard 55, is pretty narrow. It's like 15 inches or whatever. Anyway, so, and then, over time, like it's only been like the last 5, 6, 7 where we've really been able to have access to these larger enclosures without a 6 to 8 week order time, or 12 weeks, right? So, so I think that is fantastic. So definitely we should provide that nowadays. But that was the norm. That was the industry norm for a very long time. For a single bearded dragon was a 40 breeder. I mean, that's what I used to recommend, because that's what my customer was able to get a hold of, without a special custom order. So, but having said that, you can't just put them in a flat tank with nothing. They should be spending time out. They should be, the problem with the bearded dragon too, is if you just put them in your enclosure and then they just sit there, so, there's like nothing there for them. So, having like a little area of your home where there's like an enrichment center, also the blue tongue, where there's like a little enrichment center, if you can do that. I mean, people are getting so creative now and sharing all these ideas online. It's great. They have all of these little pet areas that you can set up for hamsters, and so all these panels and stuff for rabbits and so on and so forth. So those are being used for bearded dragons and blue tongues and various reptiles as well. So you can get creative with that as well. But making sure that they have time out of their enclosure as well, because then it's just a disservice to them, even if it's a 422, to have them just sitting there all the time and they just spend their lives in a 422. If you're not going to interact with the animal, if you're not going to have the animal out at all, then it's kind of, don't get one.
How much would you say is appropriate or recommended to have them out, like, per day?
I mean, once they are established with you and they have, they kind of understand that you are not a threat to them and so on and so forth, and they've gone through an acclimation period, then you can have them out quite a bit. So it's not like people have this a lot of times, this idea that they have to be basking, they have to be in the warmth, they have to be in the heat. And I get that. I understand why people think that, but that's just not the case. Like, I can't think of a single species of lizard that goes out and basks and sits there all day long. Like, if I think about just all the little brown anoles that run around my house and the green anoles and so on and so forth, right? I mean, they come out and they bask in the early morning, they get some sun, and then they haul booty. They're in the bushes, they're in the shade. They are not seeking the heat. So, you know, having the animal out a lot is not of detriment to the animal. You want to make sure that they have proper time to digest. So I wouldn't feed a dragon and then take him out of his enclosure for 3 hours without giving him ample time to digest. I'd allow him to digest his meal first, and allow him to bask, but then you can bring him out for hours. So it doesn't need to be, they don't need to be constantly just, it's not like I can only take him out for 20 minutes because he has to get back to his heat. But that's not the case at all. So, they can spend hours out. I have a friend / customer that I've had for years, and she lives down in South Florida, and she's takes some of my most beloved retired dragons that I've had over the years, some of my females, and they run up and down her. She works from home. She has a home office. She has a little area set up for them, but they run up and down the stairs. They jump on a sofa that she has there. They have a basking place in the window. They have, so they get a lot of exercise. They get to be dragons. And whether you're a lizard or a snake or a human or whatever, we all have to move. If we don't move, right, then our immune system suffers. So that's important for pretty much every living thing. As you have to be able to move. So if you don't, then waste products don't drain. It gets stagnant and disease can set in. So we don't want our animals living in a situation where they're unable to, especially lizards more so than snakes, but that they're not able to move. They're not able to exercise.
Exactly.
So
I think it's interesting with that is giving them a choice to do it and just
kind of. Yeah, if you're home and you're able to monitor it and you don't have certain, if you don't have others, like cats, for example, some cats are great with bearded dragons, some of them are not. And there's the whole, the trust issue there. It depends on the cat. Some of them could care less. Same with dogs. Some of them could care less. So you have to make that determination based on your own set of circumstances. Most cats I wouldn't trust to a bearded dragon being out, but I do have families that have both and they seem to be just fine together. So but it would be better to set up a situation where like a cat and a bearded dragon wouldn't necessarily be interacting, but you can set up, there's ramps now that you can design. You can build a ramp, you can do a 3D print one, you can do all kinds of things out of the enclosure with the door open, that allows them an area of, that's safe for them to be able to explore. So
yeah, that'd be really cool just to I have cats and nope, they're very much interested in the leopard gecko, so they are.
Some of them. Yeah, it's and the best way to do it too is with like a webcam when you're gone and see what the cat does with if they have access to the enclosure, see how much interest they're taking into it. So if they're taking a lot of interest, I've had some dragons over the years that have gone into pet homes and they've been traumatized by a cat. I'm like, do you have a cat? Because they'll be like, they'll list some behaviors, and I'm like, do you have a cat? Well, yes, I do. Why? Let's go ahead and set up can you set it? Do you have like a little webcam or something you can set up? Yeah, I can. Oh my God, he's like swatting at the yes, that's why you're seeing this behavior. So we need to change the location of the enclosure.
Funny.
So,
Yeah, mine absolutely not. They're very much interested in geckos. So
some of them are hunters, some of them could care less. So and even same thing with dogs. Some of them could care less. My 2 dogs could care less. If I have a dragon in the house that gets out, they're like, "Mom, your dog." They're just like barking, So, or Mom, your dragon. Come get your dragon. They don't care.
That's funny.
They would never touch either of them, but yeah, that's funny.
Cool. So see where we're at. You guys have any questions, we can put them in. This has been just a awesome conversation. I'm learning a lot. I love behavior stuff. I find it very fascinating because we know so little about, these guys with their reptiles in general, with their behavior. So
I think it's funny, like the differences between the two species. Just one small thing that I noticed that just makes me laugh is, so the dragons, when I go to feed them, they see me coming with the food cup, right? So they're all like, the babies will come running front to their enclosures, and it sounds like rolling thunder in the house because they're like, da, 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 da. So they all come running forward. Everybody sees me with the cup and they're waiting for their turn, they're just like, ah. So the same thing with the dragons outside. They'll all go up and they're ready for feeding time. Like they'll all position to jump for their bugs, right? When I do the bug drop. The blue tongues, so for them it's vision, it's visual. For the blue tongues, it's smell. They can smell. They'll come out at, I'll see as soon as I have the food, they smell it and they're like out. And they're like trying to they're checking out. They're trying to check out so hard. They just, if I'm at an enclosure to the left of them, they're all moving to the left and they're all like, what's going, they're up on their basking platforms. Like, am I next? Am I next? So it's funny. They have an amazing sense of smell.
Huh. Interesting. That's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Smell and see it by one thing I kind of noticed with the Chihuahua is not all of them, but I do have a couple. It's mainly the males. The females are a little standoffish, but one male, anytime I open the door, he's always at the front. I just open it, he just jumps on my hand, and then he just hangs out with me while I mist and feed everybody else. I try to put him back, and he just turns around and wants right back out. So it's just
My males and the blue tongues are always the ones that are a little bit more adventuresome too. They're the ones that are usually first ones out. They're always the first out of brumation too. So when they're during brumation, because I do like my blue tongues that are kept outdoors. Most of them are outdoors. Some of them are an indoor outdoor system, and then others are just outdoors, and they're set up in pairs or trios. And so when they go through their natural cycle through winter, then my males always come out first, usually by about 2 weeks.
Okay. But yes, maybe, yeah, similar male thing there. I've just noticed it's just a couple male. The females are a little, but they're also breeding, and so I kind of just left them.
Yeah. But the female, like the blue tongue females, are generally a little bit more shy than the males. I found
Similar to mine. But I'll check them.
They're a little bit more reserved.
Yeah, so it's a similar thing. I check them, make sure they're healthy. But yeah, usually if they want to come out, I just let them and don't force it. So. So yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Fantastic. We've already done a little over an hour, come up on an hour and a half. I'm going to do a quick commercial real quick to keep MJ happy. It's also his birthday today, so happy birthday, MJ.
Happy birthday, MJ.
I'll do a little commercial, and then we'll do some Instagram. We'll kind of go through your Instagram, and maybe you can point out some more, or some of your favorite ones to kind of wrap it up, and
sounds good.
Go from there. So yeah, these fly by sometimes, but it's been a great show. Okay, we'll do this commercial and we'll be right back.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors. Green tree pythons, emerald tree boas, and plenty other arboreal snakes have been quite the popularity here at the Trap Talk Reptile Network, which brings me to today's sponsor, the Reptile Perch. Head over to the reptileperch.com and Reptile Perch on Instagram. See what type of design PVC perch is best for your arboreal reptile. But first and foremost, I would also check out David Brom's Green Tree Python availability on the website. And you can also check out his Instagram just to stay current on any projects or any productions that he posts. Thank you so much, David Broms, for your ongoing support. Looking forward to seeing what you have to show in the 2025 season. When you think about building a good community and being a leader of that community, nobody comes to mind better than Mark Hager over at Texas Chondros. That's right. Make sure you head over to TX Chondros on Instagram and also head over to Mark's website. See what he has available Green Tree Python wise, and be ready for quite the 2025 Green Tree Python breeding season out of Mark Hager. He's a veteran in the Green Tree Python game, one of the best and nicest breeders in the Green Tree Python game. He's been putting on the whole state of Texas for as long as I've known him. So if you want to see all the amazing other chondro keepers out of the state of Texas, another good reason to go follow Mark Hager over at TX Chondros on Instagram. And again, head over to his website, texaschondros.com. You can find all the links in the description below. Thank you so much, Mark Hager, for supporting the Trap. Treat.
All right, we are back. All righty, let me see here. Forgot I'm on my new computer. See if I can bring up the Instagram real quick and see. Forgot. Yeah, give me 1 sec. If anybody has questions, you can put them in the chat. I'm gonna figure out because I have to share screen. Let me see if it will. Might take me a little bit. Sometimes I restart the computer and It's on my personal one, but so yeah, I like bringing up the picture.
There's one of your babies now.
Yeah, they are yeah, they like to and mom's doing something they wanna
Participate.
participate, yeah. Oh, stop. Trying to forget my password. Come on now. Well, we'll see if we can get this going or not. How many clutches are you producing of each of these species this year? Or yeah, I say clutch, live bears.
Yeah, litters versus clutches. Yeah. So the bearded dragons, probably, I'm gonna say about 80 clutches this year.
Okay.
So I've cut back quite a bit because I had bearded dragons. I had a whole bunch of bearded dragons, and then fewer blue tongues, and then now I've kind of like brought them even now, and then my blue tongue production will go up a little bit more next year, and my dragon production will go down a little bit. Now, having said that, I'll still end up producing more bearded dragons than blue tongues just because of litter versus clutch sizes, and the bearded dragon will lay multiple clutches and things like that. But I'm dropping down my bearded dragons to running only 8 large outdoor enclosures next year versus what I have now, which is 24. But I've cut down quite a bit. Like I cut down a lot.
Yeah.
This year, I mean, I was running 24 enclosures, but I was running a lot of them were only like 1.1. And some of them live by themselves, and I didn't even pair them up this year. So anyway, but so yeah, as I increase, there we go.
I found it. I brought it. Yeah, I remember
All the friends.
Cool.
So yeah, as I get more and more into the blue tongues, then you'll see kind of like even production for both. It really doesn't impact like my retail customers as far as my shrinking of the bearded dragon production. It just impacted my wholesale availability.
Okay.
So, but I still get to have plenty of pretties for the general public. And all the colors and so on and so forth. So,
yeah, take a look at some of these.
Yeah.
Pictures, like this right off the bat. Wow, like that guy. I like the orange.
That one's a translucent red. The white one next to it is a hypo 0. And then on the bottom left there, that one is an albino blue tongue. So that one is one of 15 that I produced last year. And they were the first ones produced in the United States. So that mutation has been in the United States for, I don't know, 15 to 20 years, but it never went into production. So I produced 15 of them last year, and then this year I produced about 28 of them. So yeah. So I'm really excited about the morphs. And it's a new challenge for me, so the bearded dragons, I kind of, I can do them with my eyes closed. The blue tongues, it's kind of a new adventure, and you never know what you're going to pop out next. And a lot of the morphs are just now, like I'm going in production on a lot of the morphs, like this one, so that one is a pos het. That's a probable het for albino. So my pairings were a het to het. So that one's a 66 probable het. That one's got a really cool pattern on it. It also has the pitch black.
That's what I like. I like contrasty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Me too. Yes. And that one is a Maruki.
Okay. So when you say
that's an adult female. So she's about 3 years old.
Very cool.
Yeah. And that species, they're so friendly. They're easy to handle. They're a lot of fun. They have a bit of a higher humidity requirement than the Aussie species, the northern and the eastern, but not difficult to maintain.
Yeah, especially with Florida humidity, that's been it's getting used to for me.
Oh yes, welcome to wet zone. So. And then this one right here, that one's a bubblegum. That one, go to the, okay. Well, actually this one is just a comparison. The left side, I took those 2 photos for Morph Market on 7/7. And to the right is the same animal, 2 more photos I took for the update for the ad. And that was on 8/8. So that's 1 month's worth of growth on a blue tongue. They grow very rapidly.
Wow. 1 month. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
And then was it this one?
That was the bubblegum. That one is an Ariangaya. That one's a pure IJ. Those actually, Mike Barrera got had two animals. And so I acquired those from him. It just so happens that they were a pair. And so I proved them out 3 years ago. So now I've just been kind of building up my colony a little bit with them. Since that one's an IJ, they only have like 5 or 6 babies. So this year I started crossing them into the toffee, which I can show you on there. I also took them to what else did I take that one to? I took them to that was the one that was the most exciting for me, was the toffee. I also took it to an ivory to see what happens. And then a couple others. So I was working this year. A lot of it was, half of my focus was on producing animals that I could offer to the public. And then the other half of my focus was on working on getting the morphs into production and producing, hets, double hets, things like that, so that I'm able to start rolling those out and offer them next year.
Cool. So, that one's really pretty.
Yeah, but these are very vibrant. This is a T positive, and they come much like the Tegu. They come in 2 forms, a light and a dark phase. So the color spectrum on these is phenomenal. Like it looks like a bag of Skittles. I mean, the palette that you get in a litter of bubble gums is just absolutely jaw dropping, and the color that develops over time. That one's an albino. That's one I'll be taking to Daytona. So I'm taking about 10 of them to Daytona. I love the contrast. So they're beautiful. They're beautiful.
That's really pretty.
Yeah. And they have a pretty wide color palette as well. So there's a lot that can be done there with color and pattern. Those are a couple Marukis I listed. This is that one with the empty back. If you go up one and right. One more. There you go. That one. So there were, I produced about, it was 2022, I think. I produced the first, what I call a Kit Kat, which they have, it was a pure Northern that came out of Steve Moy, his collection. He has, out of his colony, we had selected a couple that had an aberrant butterfly-like pattern, and when I crossed those together, then I ended up with what I called the Kit Kat, which is it creates kind of like a ladder effect, if you will. So much of the pattern is reduced on the back of the animal. This one, though, this is part of the albino project, and this one I did cross the easterns, which is where the albino originated from, into the northern to make a healthier, stronger animal. And so this ended up being a really unusual one that I produced as a result. So it's basically like an extreme form of the Kit Kat. So I'm interested to see what that one looks like as an adult. I think that one's going to be pretty cool.
And you cross this with albino too? To get that.
So this one's a 66% probable het for albino. So this one is a sibling to the visuals.
Okay.
But I crossed the Kit Kat. One of the so I had several albinos that I outcrossed into various different Northerns, and one of them that I outcrossed ended up was a sibling to one of my Kit Kats, and it turns out that I ended up with the Kit Kat in the albino project.
I think that would be, I'm trying to imagine this in albino. I wonder if this would be like all.
So I do have on my, on Instagram here, there is a Kit Kat albino. It looks like a hypo that I popped out. I'm keeping that one to see what happens. Oh, here's one right here. Okay. So that one is a bubble gum.
Look at that.
Isn't that great? So they have like this crate, and I used my crappy old iPhone for this.
So pretty.
And so in person, they're just, they have all this like purple iridescent sheen to them. They're very cool.
That's really pretty.
I'm very excited to see what happens so I got the double hets for that. Oh, so the next one over to the right, that one is a Kit Kat albino. See how there's the reduction of pattern on the back?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's one of this year's, and obviously a keeper.
Yeah, that's pretty. I like the orange and the white.
Yeah.
So a little bit of contrast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you can intensify that color as well, or reduce it on the albino. So there's another Kit Kat down there. The one in the middle on the next row, that's a double het. That one is toffee and albino. So I'm looking forward to that cross, which the toffee is a completely patternless animal.
Hmm.
So I'll be able to, except for they do have, generally they have a black stripe down either side of the spine.
Very
So
cool.
those were my first double heads to get on the ground. So, and I had, let's see, that one is a hypo zero bearded dragon.
This one's pretty too. Yeah.
That's another bubble gum.
Yeah, I like the bubble gums.
Yeah. There's a dark phase. Okay, so see to the left of that photo that you just showed.
This
Go
one?
up one. Nope, go up one. Okay, see that one? That is a representation of the left of the light phase and the dark phase of the bubble gum. And those are pure Ariangias. Those are IJs.
Okay. And when you say at least dark phase, does it stay dark?
Yes.
Or stay phase?
Yes.
Does it change or
Yes.
no?
It'll stay pretty dark. It'll get they generally get slightly lighter, but yeah, it'll hold that color.
Awesome.
It's much like, okay, so the tegus, the albinos, you have the great amount of variability in them as well. There's a light phase and a dark phase that are represented.
Okay. Gotcha. Oh, this one, look how dark this one. Yeah, because sometimes phase, I don't know which species it is, but
That one, so after first shed, they did get lighter, but that is actually, I took the toffee to the bubblegum for double hets for those as well. That's one of the ones that personally I'm most excited about to see because I want to produce a purple patternless skink. So imagine the ones that I just showed you, like the dark phase, that's completely patternless.
Mm. And with these, when you make the hets, do you see like het influence that changes the phenotype of them as well?
It can. Yes, it doesn't always. There's not always like visual markers or anything like that. This one's actually too. This one is a. So the toffee is actually a northern IJ cross, and then the bubblegum is a pure IJ. So I noticed most of the IJs that I crossed this year into anything that had any northern in them, the IJ was dominant.
Interesting. Sorry, saying too. It's like a whole nother language, man. I do these podcasts with you.
There's the bottom left there for me, I guess, which is probably right for you. Right there. Those are toffees.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I got the patternless on the top.
So those I'm working on getting color into. So this year I crossed them into red. I crossed them into the albino for the double hets, also the bubblegum for the double hets. So yeah, and then I also crossed them in the Kit Kat just to see what would happen. I was just like, why not?
I like the names. Of course, this is a albino Kit Kat.
Yeah, that one is a Kit Kat albino.
Very pretty. Awesome. Let's see if I can see any others that kind of.
There's the video that I was telling you about. That one's the one of being born, and then the next one over is him peeking through and eating food. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness! Wow, that's cool. So cool. Huh.
So there's first breath, and then like 5 minutes later, he was chowing down on mom's meal, which was hilarious.
That's hilarious. That's so fast. They're like very high vitality full guys.
They have to be, or they won't survive.
Yeah. Very true. Sniffing. That's super cool.
But yeah, he'll go ahead and basically shut out that sack, and then he'll turn around and consume it, and that's their first meal.
Okay. Very cool. And then you just put them on, their regular.
Yeah, and I offer them a very varied diet. So I offer live bugs. I offer I'll do like a blend of like a high end. When they're younger, I'm giving them a high end like cat food, and then when they're older, dog food. But I'll mix that with egg and a variety of veggies and blueberries. Like I'm just constantly changing it up. Or I'll make a blend of like egg and dried black soldier fly larvae and a bunch of veg. I just kind of change it up.
Cool.
Again, they're scavengers. They eat dead things. They eat carrion. They'll pick strawberries off of a bush. I've seen videos of them in Australia where they just were picking off strawberries off a bush, which is kind of cool. So, but that video to the left was him peeking through and grabbing the food. There you go. That was funny. Look at him.
Oh yeah, I see it.
He'll laugh at it. He's like, I'm going to get it.
My goodness.
It was great.
6 months after birth. Yeah. Wow.
It was awesome to see.
Huh.
I was trying to like I was trying to like get access without like startling them. I was able to set my camera on top of it.
And when she's
And
done,
my
you
phone.
separate them like right off the bat from her.
So
Or
they will unlike so a bearded dragon, they lay eggs and then they forget about it. So they will consume their young without any questions asked. They will not defend their young at all. Blue tongues will defend their young. And a lot of times both the male and the female will defend the young, and most of the time the male won't bother with the young at all. I have learned though that, and I don't know if it's just IJs, but it seems like the IJs, the males seem a little bit more inclined to perhaps bring harm to the babies. So next year, out of precaution, I'm going to separate before they're born. I'll separate the male and the female.
very cool.
So I haven't seen that behavior in any of the others yet, but I did notice it in the IJs this year.
Huh.
That one's at Eastern.
Tiny.
Yeah.
He is not.
That's a good sized baby. That one was just born.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Yeah. He's like, back off, lady.
So they will display, they'll have a behavior when they're first born where they're flicking their tongue. That's another albino that's phenomenal. That animal is just absolutely gorgeous.
The pattern.
We need to post an updated photo of that one. That is just a phenomenal,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
gorgeous, gorgeous.
Interlacing of the purple there kind of makes them web. The contrast on that would be nuts.
Yeah, and I have some that are a year old and they've held the purple really well.
Super pretty. Cool. I feel like we could look at these.
And then the dragons, of course.
Yeah. These guys are pretty too.
I had just moved that one outside.
Oh yeah. Cool. Okay.
See, like this one, the color, the saturation on this one is much more so than some of the others.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that can be done. So right now I want to move to putting red into them. So next year I'll be taking some of the visuals that I produced and putting those to red to produce the hets.
It's a very fitting name. It almost looks like little fish scales here. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. Huh. Very cool. I'll have to stock this a little bit later too. Oh, looks so cute. Oh, so cute.
So my feed's been a little consumed by blue tongues lately because one, I had like a lot of firsts, so I was super excited. And then, they only have babies they drop once a year. So this is the time where it was like, running out in the yard and seeing who dropped today type of thing.
What time of year do they usually?
So where the dragons have a much longer season. So for me here, I run typically a little bit later than everybody. This year we had a really weird winter. And so I actually had my firstborn in, the first ones were born at the very end of May. I think it was like May 28th. Usually my season starts in June. And then they're done within 6 weeks. I usually have about 6 weeks of babies dropping, and then that's it. This year it was extended. This year I actually got a litter in August. So I just had an Arian Jaya, and she just dropped a couple days ago. So on the 6th, which that's the latest I've ever had. But our winter was really bizarre. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen with my season. I was actually afraid it would make a mess of it. But I ended up with almost 50 litters of blue tongues this year. So my production rate compared to like what I put together, my success rate was really, really high. So like really high. It was the highest it's ever been. It was probably, I'll have to like go through, it was probably 80% or something. It was really high. So which is great.
It's awesome. Cool.
They didn't seem to mind the chaos. Just me. I minded it. It stressed me out. We had like
better than us in some instances, I feel like. So
yeah, we had one period where we had like gray, drab, suboptimal, cloudy, misty, garbage weather for 10 days. And it was, I mean, I probably lost 5 years off my life from that 10-day period. I was just like so stressed out. Ron's like, it'll be fine. I'm like freaking out. It'll be fine.
Well, when you're I'm used to drab and cloudiness. So the fact that it's sunny all the time here, it's like done wonderful.
So yeah, and so what happens in Florida is traditionally like we can get really cold, but we generally don't get cold with drab gray. It typically the way that the atmosphere and the way that we relate to like the ocean on either side, all this other stuff. Anyway, whatever. We really can't be set up. Generally speaking, we don't get that misty gray for an extended period of time. If we get it, it's for like a day and then it's gone. And we generally have in the winter here, we'll generally have 10 good days followed by like a cold front that comes through and it lasts 3 days and then it's out of here. And then we have 10 days that are like really nice. It might still get cold at night, but it'll be like in the 50s, high 40s, not bad. This winter, it was reverse of that. We were getting like 3 good days and then we were getting 10 days of trash. And it was stressful. But everything that we had outside did great. I didn't lose a single bearded dragon. I didn't lose a single blue tongue. So yeah. So the system worked. We use 6 mil plastics during the winter and we kind of like roll them back, roll them forward, based on weather conditions. So, and it works.
I mean, as we discussed earlier, changes is good for them, and they kind of build up that immunity, ability to adapt. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's some extreme limits that obviously, if we were to hit, he hit one time when he was living in Lake Placid, which is like not far from you. He hit 17.
Wow. For where
right?
I'm like,
yes.
Wait, I'm pretty south.
Yes.
I'm in the Everglades.
Yes. 17 in Lake Placid, which is like 30 minutes. I think it's only about 30 minutes east of Punta Gorda.
Okay. So yeah.
17.
I'm an hour and a half.
I mean, that's pretty far south though. 17. He hit 17. So, and he did have some dragons. He had put them all in there. This was in, I think he said it was 2013. Anyway, he had put all of his dragons in their little underground bunkers and kind of like tried to like seal the cubbies so they couldn't get out. Dragons are not the brightest cookies in the cookie jar, by the way. And so some of them got out and they ended up kind of like sticking their tail out. And so he did have a few where they lost their tail, but they were fine. They survived through 17.
Wow.
Because they were underground. I wouldn't recommend that. Here I would run a full pull, obviously if I saw anything like that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully
Yeah, he learned at that time that they won't necessarily stay underground. Yeah. So, and it's weird too, because when it's cold here, like the banana pectinata, they will go down to the subfloor. The blue tongues will go seek shelter. The bearded dragons will just sit on another branch.
They're like, we don't care.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Fascinating. Oh, super cool. All right. Trying to see. Yeah, we'll pass the hour and a half. I told you I'd hold you to.
Oh, you're good.
It's been a great conversation. I've learned a lot. Very, very fascinating. You can tell that you're very passionate about these species, and that came out. I'm really excited to see you again in person at Daytona and see some.
Yeah, absolutely.
In person. So
yeah, we're in room 2. So
room 2. Okay, yeah.
Little less chaotic in there. It's like, do you want to move into room 1? No, I'm good. I'm fine. I actually like room 2. It's a little bit I don't know. It's nice. It's worked out.
It's quiet.
And everybody knows where I'm at now at this point too, because I think this will be the 3rd or 4th year that we've been in room 2. So yeah.
Cool. Wow, I'm super excited. Daytona's probably my favorite show. Bavus is pretty good too up there, but Daytona, I like it more than Tinley. So just from the sheer variety of it, and I don't know, more room to move around too. I don't like getting jam packed.
I love the Tinley show, but the drive for us is.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's crazy.
Wow, it's like 20, 21, 23 hours, something like that, driving. So it's pretty brutal for the 2 of us to do that. And he has night blindness, so I get to do the night driving, and I'm just like, I hate night driving. I do it, but I'm not really a fan of it. Anyway, so that's pretty brutal. And then, yeah, we're really crammed in there. Like, I'm always very thankful for my table space because I don't like feeling claustrophobic. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not really a fan of that. So when you're behind the table, it's fine because you have like your own zone and your own space. And so, but until you have to head off to get something to eat or run to the bathroom or whatever, and then you have to fight the crowds. But I do prefer, Daytona is nice because the aisles are very, very wide. It's not too as far as, I mean, there can be a lot of people in there, but it doesn't feel like it. There's room to kind of move.
Right.
So yeah.
Felt like I think the most claustrophobic show was probably Pomona that I went to in June. Maybe it
Mhm.
wasn't that fair, so maybe it was busier than normal, but yeah, that I think was the worst show as far as being able to just move.
Right.
It was
Yeah, I
so
mean the crowds are nice, don't get me wrong, but it's just like there's that little, you got everything has its positives and its negatives, and the negative to Tinley is just like, damn, it's like,
as a vendor I would like it, but as somebody visiting, I was
yeah,
like, can't see nothing in here.
yeah, no, and you do end up missing, like, I know that I end up missing having some people see what's at my table just because they're not able to access it. So that is a drawback.
Yep. Yep.
And I have a pretty simple system too, because I have to be able to like, stack it and put it in my car. So I don't have a big truck or anything like that. So, I have to be able to pack it down pretty small to be able to travel.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Make it efficient. So
yep.
awesome. We'll see if I can
Yep.
maybe in Daytona, maybe a year or so till I get. I don't know how hard it is to get into that show, but
He had this year. Since he opened the second room in modern times, it hasn't been too difficult to get a table. I think they still had some availability. Last week they still had like 4 tables available. So
next year.
so it just depends on the year. So some years he sells out really fast. They had a couple people back out this year because of various reasons. So
Okay. So yeah, then you're to look into that. Cool. Well, awesome show. Really, like I said, thank you so much for your time. I
thank
really
you.
enjoyed it, and we had some good questions or comments in the chat. So thank you guys for tapping in. I did link your Instagram in the description below, but how can people reach out to you, follow you?
Usually, like, I mean, you can follow me on Morph Market if you're looking, what I'm listing. You can go in and pull me up and follow there. That'll give you, notification when I list. And then you can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm very active on both. So those are really the best ways to reach me. So I have a website, but I am not a techie. I'm not a techie. I'm an animal person. Like, so for me to use my website is like, why would I do that when I can just load up my photos to Morph Market? It's so easy. It's like super easy. And I don't have to go into my laptop. I don't have to upload photos. I just straight from my phone, take the photos, upload them, whatever. And for me, because I spend so much time with my animals, the last thing I want to do is spend hours uploading photos. I just don't want to mess with it. So my website just kind of sits there. I am bad with email, so that's not the best way to get a hold of me. Through Messenger is really good on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. All right, guys. So go ahead, follow Fairy Tale Dragons if you haven't already. Reach out to Heather if you're interested in any of her projects. A lot of beautiful animals, and yeah, we'll end it there. So thank you so much for your time again tonight. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, have a great week, and I'll see you next weekend. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. All right. Perfect. So excited. Hope you guys have a great week. Hopefully everyone has a safe drive coming back from Bob's show and a safe travels Daytona next week. And you guys have questions, comments, concerns, just drop me a chat on Instagram, and I'll see you guys next Sunday.